I finally got to watch James Gunn's Superman. It's been a whole day since I've watched it. I went to an early screening last night, which I'm very grateful for. And I wanted my opinions and my thoughts to digest and to think about it a little bit before I did a full-on review. And there will be no spoilers in this review. I encourage everyone to go to the theater, support the movie and the filmmakers if you are a fan of DC, because this is a huge launch for the DC cinematic universe, and to just form your own opinions and get your own thoughts about it. But if you have to hear whether it's good or bad and just want some vague input on the film, I am here to say that it is indeed peak DC. When I tell you my first response to my friend asking me how the Superman movie was, the first thing I told him was that I cried, because I did cry. I cried when the credits rolled. Not because of anything that happened in the movie that was sad or overly happy. It was just because the movie was that good. It was so good, and it told me that DC is back. We finally have a good cinematic universe on our hands. DC is just in good hands in general, and the future is just bright. It has never felt so good to be a DC fan, and I just think it's incredibly poetic that out of all the characters to bring DC back into the spotlight, it's freaking Superman, the literal symbol of hope. There are many contributing factors as to why this movie works so damn well, but if I had to pick one element above all else, I'd have to say it's the selection of characters they used for this film. And I'm not just talking about our big main three characters, Superman, Lois Lane, and Lex Luthor. I'm talking about the supporting cast. You have the Justice Gang, you have the crew at the Daily Planet, you have the Ultraman and Engineer working for Lex Luthor. All of these different characters highlight different aspects of Superman, providing him more of a spotlight, which is why I think they're so integral to this story, and why I wouldn't worry about there being quote-unquote too many characters. And it goes beyond just highlighting Superman with these characters. These characters individually are so damn lovable. In some cases, some of them are punchable, but they're like, you love to hate them type of characters. It depends on the character, obviously. But they're all fantastically written and portrayed by their actors. I think the casting was on point. I, for example, was not expecting to come out of the theater loving Mr. Terrific as much as I did, because prior to this, I've read one singular Mr. Terrific comic ever, and it was the one that I read in preparation for this movie, so I just didn't think I'd vibe with this character so much, but the actor really landed it with the dry humor, the use of his T-spheres and action sequences and stuff. He just ended up being a really funny and badass character, and I just loved Mr. Terrific. That's not to take away from the big three, though, because Lois, Superman, and Lex Luthor are definitely the three most notable characters of the film. I mean, they are the center focus after all. All of them are perfectly portrayed by their actors just as much as the supporting cast. I think David Cornsweet is definitely my favorite live-action Superman, and maybe just favorite Superman of all time after watching this. Something he gets so well compared to other Superman actors is he puts a lot of emotion and humanity into the character. Like, he cracks a lot of jokes, he struggles, he gets frustrated, he can be cocky sometimes, you know? Like, there's just a little bit of everything. He is, at his core, a human being despite not literally being one, and he faces all of the challenges and emotions that humans do every day, and that's my favorite part about Superman, is how relatable the character is despite the differences. The fact that he's bulletproof, he can fly and all that, doesn't take away the fact that he deals with everyday human struggles, and making him so relatable and so interesting is just what's correct for the character, in my opinion, rather than making him this like stoic, almost religious symbol of a character. So I think David Cornsweet really knocked it out of the park. Rachel as Lois Lane, I forget how to say her last name. I actually forget her last name. It's like, bro, I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm not going to look it up right now. But the point is, the actress is phenomenal. She played her very similarly to Lois from the animated series, which I guess is also just comic accuracy at its finest. She is very witty. She banters back and forth with Clark, Superman, whatever you want to call him, and the rest of the Daily Planet. But she's also still very supportive of her friends. At the same time, though, she's not afraid to ask people close to her really difficult questions. And that's the Lois Lane that I always grew up knowing, the one that is not afraid of the truth and is always in pursuit of that truth, making her the most efficient reporter of all time. And obviously, Nicholas Cole as Lex Luthor. Oh my god, chef's kiss. This is up there with Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. I said it. This guy is so unapologetically evil. He does not care whose lives he has to ruin in the process of obtaining his goals, and his goals are petty. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll just let the obvious one out there. He just wants to kill Superman over the fact that he just can't comprehend that someone shows up and is just better than him, and in his eyes better than humanity. It's jealousy, it's envy, it's just frustration, and he is pettiness incarnate. I love how cold and calculating he is. He was literally aura farming in the Fortress of Solitude, which we see in one of those clips, so you know that's not a spoiler. And also, when things are not going his way, he completely crashes out, and I love to see it. He is a very punchable villain, and I love that about him, and I'm glad we didn't go the empathetic villain route, because that is not Lex's character. I don't want to see these characters toned down. I want him to be as evil as humanly possible, and Nicholas Colt really delivered with the character. And of course, we got to talk about the most heavily marketed aspect of the movie, Krypto the Super Dog. I love his inclusion into this film. I feel like Krypto unfortunately gets lost in Superman mythos all the time because it's just such a silly concept. It's a dog in a cape with the same superpowers as Superman, but Krypto is in fact just really great for this film because not only does a superpowered dog that's not very well trained make for some very humorous scenes and had my whole theater giggling, but also you can get very emotionally invested with a conflict involving an animal in a film. So I think it was a great inclusion into Superman. I can't really say much else about Krypto without spoiling the film, so I will just leave it at that. In terms of pacing and the tone of the movie, I think James Gunn absolutely nailed it. From start to finish, I was hooked. The movie never skipped a beat. It's very fast paced. It's filled with action and really good jokes, but it knows when to shift into a darker atmosphere. It knows when to raise the stakes a little bit. It knows when to slow down and have a heart-to-heart with its audience. It's just the best of all worlds, is what I would say. And that's classic James Gunn. Even Creature Commandos was like that. One moment you'd be laughing your ass off, and the next moment you'd be on the brink of tears. Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. That's just what James Gunn does, and he does it so well. When it comes to the actual presentation quality of the movie, I wish I had the vocabulary to do it justice. I'm going to attempt to anyways. The score is what stuck out to me the most. It wasn't like a jukebox of just random pop music thrown in there. Like, you're not going to hear Take On Me in this film or something. There's only one licensed song, or maybe two, I can think of, that were in the film. Everything is like its own original score, and it works so well. It builds up some very, very hype moments and gets you even more invested into the movie than it already would have on its own. The visuals, the cinematography, the color grading, everything, it just all flowed very nicely together. I'm not an expert in that field, just know that there were many times where I wish I could have clicked Windows print screen and used that as my wallpaper. It happens very often. And of course, when we're talking about the CGI elements or green screens, etc., nothing stuck out as like unrealistic to me. Like, everything looked like it fit perfectly well in the world that we were watching. I really enjoyed the use of like all the different tech that some of the characters used, some of the superpowers, like obviously Superman's heat vision and whatnot looked really well done. The kaiju that you saw in the trailers, that thing looked amazing. Like, everything just fits in this comic book world of Superman, and nothing stood out to me as like, wow, that's just bad CGI, or that is an awkward looking green screen. It all flowed together very nicely. If I had to come up with something negative about this film, just so I don't seem like a paid shill, I'd have to say I was hoping for a little bit more of Clark Kent rather than just Superman. You don't really get too much of Clark Kent in this movie, and it's a shame because David Cornsweet does a really good job at differentiating the voice. He switches up the hairstyle a little bit, he changes his posture, he's a bit of a stumbling idiot, and it just works so well for making people not believe that he's Superman, and I wish I could see a little bit more of that. But other than that, this is a 10 out of 10 film, straight up. I'm giving it a 100% rating because it's so well paced. It's a beautiful movie. The characters are all lovable or punchable if intended to be. And it's got me feeling hopeful. It's got me feeling hopeful for the future of DC. I think this was the perfect movie to launch the new cinematic universe. And I can't wait to see what else James Gunn has cooked up for us in the future. With that being said, I've been AO Naves. Again, let me know if you want the spoiler review, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.